The morning started out like any other in our quiet neighborhood just outside Seattle. The sky was pale gray, the air smelled faintly of rain, and the sound of coffee dripping in the kitchen made everything feel calm and ordinary. I was in the middle of setting the table for the brunch my husband, Daniel Reed, had been planning all week. He was proud of these gatherings, partners, investors, people who admired his charm and success. To everyone else, Daniel was the perfect man. He owned a real estate company, dressed impeccably, and had that kind of confidence that made people follow him. To me, he was the man who had promised stability after years of struggle following my divorce. My 15-year-old daughter, Mia, had finally begun to feel safe again, or so I thought. Mia was quiet that morning, helping me slice fruit in the kitchen. Her eyes kept flicking toward the hallway, tense and distracted. I noticed, but before I could ask, Daniel stepped in, fixing his tie, smiling in that way that felt rehearsed. "You ready, sweetheart?" he asked, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "Almost," I said, forcing a smile. "The guest should be here soon." He nodded and left the room. That was when Mia slipped a small piece of paper into my hand so quickly I almost didn't notice. I looked at her, confused, but she just shook her head and mouthed, "Please." I unfolded the crumpled note. 5 words written in her careful handwriting stared back at me. "Pretend you're sick. Leave now." For a moment I couldn't process what I was seeing. "Mia, what is this?" I whispered. She looked pale, her voice barely audible. "Mom, please, trust me." Before I could ask another question, Daniel's voice echoed down the hall. "Lauren, the table looks great." I froze. Something in Mia's face, a kind of raw fear I had never seen before, made my stomach twist. Without fully understanding why, I tucked the note into my pocket and forced a smile. "Daniel," I called back, "I think I'm not feeling too well. Maybe a migraine." That was the moment everything began to change. Daniel barely glanced at me when I said I felt dizzy. "Take a pill and rest," he replied, his tone distracted as he adjusted his cufflinks. "Just don't disappear before the guests arrive." I nodded, pretending to look weak. "I'll lie down for a few minutes." The moment he turned away, Mia grabbed my hand. "Mom, we need to go now," she whispered urgently. Her grip was trembling. "Say you're going to the pharmacy for stronger medicine. Please." I hesitated, but the fear in her eyes convinced me. Within minutes we were in the car, driving down the long driveway. The house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, yet the tension inside the car only grew heavier. "Mia, what's going on?" I finally asked. She stared straight ahead, her voice shaking. "Mom, he's trying to kill you." I let out a nervous laugh, waiting for her to say she was joking, but her face remained deadly serious. "I heard him last night," she continued. "He was on the phone in his office. He said you'd drink your tea during brunch, just like always. He said no one would suspect a thing, that it would look like a heart attack." I could feel the color drain from my face. "Mia, that doesn't make any sense. Daniel would never." She interrupted, pulling her phone from her pocket. "Look at this." On the screen was a photo of a document. It showed multiple withdrawals from our joint account to another bank under Daniel's name. "He's been moving money for months," she said. "And last week I found an insurance policy, $1 million in your name." The world tilted around me. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He told me that was for both of us, for our future," I whispered. Mia's voice cracked. "No, Mom, it's for your death." The words hit like a physical blow. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, each second louder than the last. My own daughter's fear, her trembling voice, her insistence, all of it told me this was real. Somewhere deep inside, a switch flipped. I realized we weren't just running from a misunderstanding. We were running for our lives. We drove aimlessly for a few miles, neither of us speaking. My thoughts raced in circles, searching for any explanation that didn't involve my husband trying to kill me. But every memory of his controlling behavior suddenly fit together in a way that chilled me. "We can't go to the police yet," Mia said quietly. "They'll believe him. Everyone thinks he's perfect." She was right. Daniel had a spotless image, donations to charities, pictures with city officials, a polished smile that could melt anyone's suspicion. Without proof, we'd sound insane. I pulled the car to the side of a quiet street and looked at my daughter. "If what you heard is true, we need evidence, something physical." Mia nodded. "There's a small brown bottle in his desk drawer. I saw him looking at it while he was on the phone." A plan began to form, reckless but the only one that made sense. "We're going back," I said. Mia's eyes widened in disbelief. What? Mom, are you crazy? Listen, I cut her off gently. If we run without proof, he'll track us down and make it look like I've lost my mind. But if we can find that bottle, we'll have something solid. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, but if anything feels wrong, we leave immediately. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same, too normal, too quiet. The sound of laughter floated from inside. Daniel's partners had arrived. Remember, I whispered as we stepped in, act natural. Say nothing. Daniel spotted us almost immediately, a smile spreading across his face. Feeling better, darling? A little, I lied, forcing a calm expression. I took something at the pharmacy. It's helping. Good, he said, touching my back lightly. Why don't you come meet everyone? Mia muttered something about a headache and went upstairs. I watched her disappear down the hall, praying she would find what we needed. Downstairs, I played the role of the perfect wife. I smiled, refilled glasses, laughed at jokes I didn't hear, but every minute stretched into an eternity. My phone buzzed softly against my palm. One word appeared on the screen, now ... My heart stopped. I excused myself with a polite smile, my legs trembling as I climbed the stairs. When I reached Mia's room, she was pale, clutching her phone. He's coming, she whispered. I heard him on the stairs. Before I could react, the door handle turned. Daniel's voice drifted in, calm but sharp. Everything all right in here? Daniel stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. His eyes moved from Mia to me, studying every detail of our faces. You both look tense, he said lightly. Headaches again? I forced a small laugh, just checking on her before I go back down. He nodded slowly, then smiled in that polite, unsettling way of his. Good. Because I made you some tea, Lauren? Your favorite blend. It'll help you relax. My stomach turned. The tea. The same tea Mia said he planned to poison. I'll drink it later, I said quickly. I don't want to mix it with the medicine. He tilted his head, still smiling, but his eyes hardened. Nonsense. It's herbal. You can drink it now. Something in his voice sent a chill through me. I stepped closer to Mia. Maybe later, I repeated, firmer this time. A moment passed. Then Daniel's smile returned, smooth and empty. Suit yourself. He turned and left, closing the door gently behind him. Mia exhaled shakily. Mom, he knows. He knows we found something. Before I could respond, we heard the faint click of a key turning. Mia ran to the door and tried the handle. It didn't budge. He locked us in, she gasped. Panic surged through me. Window, I said, rushing to the back of the room. I yanked open the curtains. We were on the second floor. The ground below looked unforgiving, but it was our only option. I tore the blanket from Mia's bed, tying one end to the heavy desk leg. This will hold long enough. Go first. Mom. Go, I insisted. Now. Mia climbed out, her hands gripping the blanket tight as she slid down. I could hear Daniel's footsteps pounding up the stairs. My heart hammered against my ribs. When Mia reached the end, she let go, landing hard but safely on the grass below. She looked up and gave me a thumbs up through the window. The doorknob rattled. Lauren, open this door right now. Daniel's voice was no longer calm, it was sharp, furious. I swung my legs out the window and started to slide down. The fabric burned my hands, the wind cold against my face. Then I heard the door burst open and his shout, "You're making a mistake." I let go, hitting the ground hard and rolling to my side. Pain shot up my ankle, but I forced myself to stand. Mia grabbed my hand. Run, I said, breathless. And together we did, barefoot across the yard, through the trees, not daring to look back. We ran until our lungs burned. Branches scraped our arms as we stumbled through a line of trees that bordered the neighborhood. Behind us, voices shouted Daniel and a few guests calling our names, but we didn't stop. Not until we reached a side road outside the gated community. A passing taxi slowed when I waved frantically. The driver glanced at our disheveled clothes and mud-covered shoes but said nothing. Crestview Mall, please, I said, my voice trembling. He nodded and drove off. In the back seat, Mia clung to me, still shaking. Mom, what if he calls the police? What if they believe him? I swallowed hard. Then we find someone who will believe us first. At the mall, we blended into the Saturday crowd and found a cafe tucked in a quiet corner. I ordered 2 hot chocolates we didn't touch. My hands were shaking too badly to hold the cup. My phone buzzed 12 missed calls, 5 messages, all from Daniel. I opened the most recent one. Lauren, I'm worried about you. Please come home. You're scaring everyone. Let's talk before this gets worse. The words looked gentle, but I could hear his voice in my head controlled, manipulative. He was already building a story. Another message followed. I called the police. They're looking for you and Mia. Please think of your daughter. Mia's face went white. He's going to make them think you're dangerous. I knew she was right. We needed help, someone who could protect us before he twisted everything beyond repair. Then I remembered my college friend Caroline Baker, now a criminal lawyer in Seattle. We hadn't spoken in months, but she was the only person I trusted. I dialed her number with shaking fingers. She answered on the second ring. Lauren? It's been ages, are you okay? No, I said, my voice breaking. I think my husband is trying to kill me. There was a pause, sharp and professional. Where are you? At Crestview Mall, second floor cafe. Stay there, she said. Don't talk to anyone, not even the police, until I arrive. For the first time that day, I felt the faintest flicker of safety. Help was coming. Caroline arrived less than 30 minutes later, her dark coat still damp from the drizzle outside. Her calm presence filled the cafe like oxygen. The moment she saw us, she walked straight over, her eyes scanning the room before she even spoke. Lauren, she said, her voice steady, are you hurt? I shook my head, though I could barely form words. He locked us in. We climbed out the window. Caroline placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. Now listen carefully. Daniel's probably already filed a false report. We need to control the narrative before he does more damage. Before I could reply, 2 uniformed officers entered the cafe. Their eyes moved quickly across the tables before landing on us. My pulse spiked. Mrs. Lauren Reed, one of them asked. Yes, I said, my voice trembling. Your husband contacted us, the older officer explained. He's worried about your safety and your daughter's. He said you left home in a distressed state. Mia shot up in her seat. He's lying. He tried to poison my mom. The officers exchanged skeptical glances. Caroline stepped forward smoothly, sliding her business card onto the table. I'm Caroline Baker, attorney at law. My clients are under my protection. You'll speak to me first. The younger officer hesitated. Ma'am, we just want to make sure everyone's safe. And they are, Caroline replied firmly. However, if you'd like to verify their safety, you can escort us to the precinct where we'll be filing a counter-report for attempted murder. That caught their attention. After a moment of uneasy silence, the older officer nodded. All right, let's go. At the station, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Caroline guided us through the maze of desks. She spoke with the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times. We were ushered into a small interview room, where the same officers began taking notes. 10 minutes later, Daniel walked in. His presence sucked the air out of the room. He looked perfectly composed, suit pressed, hair in place, expression soft with concern. Lauren, he said, his tone full of pity, you look exhausted. Please stop this, you're not well. I felt my jaw tighten, but Caroline cut in before I could answer. Mr. Reed, my clients have evidence of your crimes. I advise you to stay silent until you have counsel present. Daniel turned toward the officers, shaking his head. This is exactly what I was afraid of. She's been unstable for months, paranoid, forgetful. Our doctor prescribed medication, but she refuses to take it. That's a lie, I snapped. I've never seen any doctor. Caroline's voice was ice cold. Can you produce medical records, Mr. Reed? He hesitated for the briefest second. They're confidential, but yes, of course. I can request them. Just then, a detective entered holding a file. Captain, you'll want to see this. The officer opened it, scanning quickly. Mr. Reed, we found a vial in your home. Preliminary tests show traces of arsenic, and the blood found in your stepdaughter's room. It matches your blood type. Daniel's face drained of color. That's impossible. Caroline folded her arms. I think that's enough pretending for one day. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw it, the mask slipping, the calm cracking. The man I thought I loved was gone, replaced by something cold and feral. Daniel's composure shattered completely. His voice rose, wild and frantic. This is a setup. She planted that bottle. You don't know what she's capable of. The detective didn't even flinch. Mr. Reed, we also found documents linking your name to several offshore accounts. Funds were transferred from your wife's inheritance without authorization. Caroline leaned forward, her tone calm but deadly. That sounds more like premeditation than paranoia, wouldn't you say? Daniel's face twisted in rage. You think you can ruin me? You're nothing, Lauren. You and that ungrateful kid. Before he could finish, the officers restrained him. His voice echoed through the hallway as they dragged him out, shouting curses and denial. Then the door slammed and the room fell silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat. Caroline turned to me gently. It's over. You're safe now. But I didn't feel safe. I felt hollow. Every image of Daniel, every smile, every promise had turned into something grotesque. I realized I had been sleeping beside a stranger all along. That night, Mia and I stayed at Caroline's apartment. We didn't talk much. We were both too exhausted, both trying to process what had just happened. Around midnight, Mia whispered, "Mom, do you think he ever loved us?" The question broke my heart. I thought about it for a long time before answering. No, honey, I think he loved control, and we were just part of that. Mia nodded silently and fell asleep clutching my hand. Weeks later, the case went public. Daniel was charged with attempted murder, fraud, and falsifying evidence. Reporters called him the charming killer, the man who smiled through every lie. Forensic tests confirmed the poison was arsenic, hidden in my tea leaves. He had even kept a timeline of how my death should unfold. When the verdict finally came, 30 years without parole, I didn't celebrate. I simply exhaled, as if releasing years of fear in a single breath. Mia and I moved to a small apartment across town. It wasn't big, but it was ours. We started therapy together, learning how to breathe again, how to trust again. Some mornings, I'd catch the scent of coffee, see the soft gray Seattle sky, and remember that day. The fear, the escape, the note. And then I'd remember the truth that saved us. Sometimes, one small act of courage is all it takes to rewrite your fate. A year later, the world finally felt steady again. Our new apartment sat on the edge of downtown Seattle, where the morning sun spilled through the windows and touched every corner with quiet warmth. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful, and after everything we had been through, peace felt like a miracle. Mia had grown into a confident 16-year-old. She laughed more now. She cooked, painted, and even joined a volunteer group that helped other teens in crisis. I watched her with pride every day, knowing she had saved my life with 5 simple words. That morning, while cleaning the bookshelf, I found the crumpled note tucked inside an old journal. "Pretend you're sick. Leave now." I stared at it for a long time, my eyes blurring with tears. That piece of paper wasn't just a warning, it was proof of love, of instinct, of survival. Later, Caroline came over for dinner. She'd become family, our anchor during the storm. We sat around the table eating pasta, laughing like ordinary people again. Between bites, Mia looked at me and asked, "Mom, do you ever think about him?" I took a breath before answering. "Not with anger anymore," I said softly. "I think about how close we came to losing everything, and how lucky we were to get another chance." Mia smiled and reached for my hand. "We're doing okay, aren't we?" I squeezed her fingers gently. "More than okay, sweetheart. We're finally free." Outside, the rain started to fall, soft, steady, familiar. But this time it didn't feel like a storm. It felt like cleansing. If you've stayed with me until now, maybe you've felt a little of what I lived through, the fear, the disbelief, and finally, the strength it took to survive. What I learned that day is something I'll never forget. Trust your instincts even when the truth feels impossible. Danger doesn't always come with warning signs or raised voices. Sometimes it smiles across the breakfast table and asks how you'd like your tea. And if someone you love ever sends you a signal, no matter how small, a glance, a whisper, a folded piece of paper, listen. That moment of trust might save your life. My daughter's note was just 5 words long, but they changed everything. Pretend you're sick. Leave now. So if this story touched you, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who might need the reminder, and tell me in the comments what part of this story moved you most. And don't forget to subscribe to The Art of Revenge for more real stories about courage, betrayal, and the quiet power of survival.